It is an honor to host you. I'm so glad that we got in contact with each other. I love your work and how you help people. And you're already going to be holding a record on our podcast. Congratulations. This is amazing. This is going to be the shortest episode ever of Boundless Body Radio. We have a team that does all the research on our guests. I'm just making this up, but we have a team that makes up all our questions, and they
Yeah.
only came up with one for you today. So I only really have one question to ask you. It'll be really easy, and you can just tell everybody the answer. And the question is, how many calories should people eat to lose weight?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's great because I have the exact answer.
Good. Yes. Oh my goodness. We've done like 800 of these and we've never
Right.
cut to the chase. This will be like not only the shortest one, but the last one. We could just be done after this.
Right. You're done. Just
Awesome.
pack it up now.
Yeah, perfect. So what's the number?
I don't have patients count calories. Isn't that funny?
Well, shoot, I think you're going to lose the record. We might have to go in a
Oh,
little bit further depth than today,
maybe.
so I may have to take a little bit more of your time.
I
Um,
know.
obviously, joking around, but yeah, it's an interesting problem and one that I've heard you talk about a lot. As far as like we just have everything stacked up against us, as far as it comes to like weight control, and it's interesting how our perception has kind of shifted around. Like when we used to think that like Homer Simpson was like the fattest person on TV. And that's like more like average if you just like kind of walk around Costco. People have gotten a lot bigger. The problem seems to be getting a lot worse. It's happening to people younger and younger. We talked to a lot of guests that were, kind of like my age, your age, you grow up. And yeah, there might be a few chubby kids. And my parents had to buy me husky clothes. And I didn't really know what that was. But now it's like, it's almost more that kids are overweight than not. So it's a really interesting problem. And yeah, I don't know how you can be very optimistic about helping people with this when it seems like everybody just has so much stacked against them.
Yeah, I think there really is, it's a lot of people personalize this issue of weight, and there's a lot of shame and stigma around it. But I think, the deck is really stacked against people. There are forces on so many sides that are really not helping to help people live a healthy lifestyle the way they might if they grew up somewhere completely different.
Yeah, that's a good point. I even think about like, thinking about somebody driving to a fast food restaurant and going into the drive-through, like at the very least, they got in their cars. Like we don't even have to do that anymore. We can just order food all day. I know people who literally eat out every single meal and don't cook hardly anything for themselves at home. It's just so crazy.
Yeah, I think it really is like whatever your standard is really becomes your norm. And so I have so many people who I'll talk to them about like, hey, like cooking a little or just like assembling a meal or, talking about vegetables. And I have patients that say like, oh, that's a lot of work, like eating vegetables. And I think, we have this conversation of like, vegetables are the easiest thing to eat. Like you could do nothing to them really. And same with fruit. Like there's so many natural sources of food that are the foods that we evolved to eat that really don't require a lot of effort, but we are
Yeah,
just in this culture of, but also, whatever you get delivered is going to taste very different,
right.
and it's easy to
Yeah.
get.
Yeah, that is a really good point. I find your career, kind of course very, very interesting. We mentioned in the introduction that you are board certified and triple board certified, especially in obesity medicine. You got your doctorate, and are working with patients. And for some reason, you decided that that wasn't enough. And I also find it very curious when we mentioned the coaching in the introduction that you said you're coaching other physicians. So that tells me that something was maybe missing in your training that made you want to go a little bit deeper, because I think we think that the doctors are the ones that know the most. They know the most about nutrition and they know how to help people and they've got plenty of time and resources to be able to do that. Tell us about your journey, why you got into practicing medicine and to begin with, and why you found that that was not sufficient and you needed to go a little bit deeper and change your practice.
Yeah, I think I really did have kind of an alternative journey. I studied at the University of Vermont, which is really big on prevention. But I think the what's hard about medicine is there's so much to learn. And when you're in medical school, they're preparing you for everything. They're preparing you to go into neurosurgery and dermatology. So there's just so much to learn. And there is a lot of preparation about how to talk to patients, how to get a good history, how to be accurate. And so I think it's just really a function of time in terms of how much we can allocate towards nutrition and prevention, and I think all medical schools know that that's really important, but it's like how in Vermont, of course, of all the places to be, like they are really trying to do the most. But it is, you're just limited by time. So when I finished my my residency, and I was at UMass, and you're seeing people who are so sick, really a lot of like end stage illness. And so I really wanted to go into primary care because it's nice to be able to prevent people from getting to that. I think acute care is very exciting and there's a lot of adrenaline, but like it would be nice if people didn't need these really extreme measures to help them when they're in an emergency situation. It would be so great if we could actually do the kind of like slow, boring work and prevent them from getting there. So that's really where my focus was in primary care. And then even in primary care, you're very limited by time, and what, especially in an insurance-based model, like what they will pay for. And there are less primary care doctors out there, so you have more and more patients, and you're trying to do the most with what you have. So, and I've been very lucky because and I still do some primary care now. Where I am is very accommodating, and I think it's very physician friendly, and they really recognize the limitations of this kind of broken healthcare model that we have. So I feel very lucky to be able to work in that, but it's still, um, you're still limited by so many things logistically. And so also when you work in primary care, you are doing, like, a lot of chronic diseases are due to lifestyle issues, and a lot of those lifestyle issues have to do with weight. And so it just seemed like, gosh, if we could just fix people's weight, it really helps so many things downstream. And I kept having these conversations with people of like, okay, like I gave you all the info, I told you the books to read, like gave you the exercise plan, like how's it going? And then I would just have these same conversations with people of like, well, it's been really hard. I haven't been able to do it. And I didn't want to like have people be discouraged either. So I thought, there's something that's not clicking, and it's not about information. And so that's what led me into coaching. And I really felt like that was the secret sauce to really get people from where they were to where they wanted to be.
Yeah, gotcha. It's interesting you mentioned the acute care and the emergency room in particular. And, after doing so many episodes and talking to many people who spend their careers in the emergency room, I was stunned because I think of, the emergency room as these are the car accidents and the gunshot wounds and whatever. And I consistently, anytime I've ever asked somebody across the board who works in the emergency department, they're like, we do deal with acute care, but it's all chronic related. It's like 85 to 90%. If I ask what percentage is like, yeah, it's an acute problem, but it's because of the diabetes. It's because of, the heart disease and the high blood pressure and all these other things. And so even then, in an emergency situation, so much of that is stemming from chronic disease, which, as you said, chronic disease is lifestyle related. There are things you can do to help with that.
Right. And that's what I really like about your show is that you really point out it really is all about autonomy and the choices that you make and the options that are available for you. And I think that's a really important conversation, that we have a lot more control than we are led to believe in terms of our own health
I
and what we're
totally
doing.
agree, and thank you for the kind words.
Mhm.
So as you got certified in the life coaching, the school that you went to seems like it's very, very legit. I was doing a little bit of research on that. I can tell you, like the life coaches that I know around me, they're the ones that like most need a life coach. Let me tell you. So I don't know about like what their certifications was. I believe the whole thing is hard to like, kind of certify around or make sure that people are doing it in a legit way. Where you went seems really legit. What did they add to your repertoire that you were really glad that you went out and did that?
Yeah, no, I love where I did the life coach school. I think it was just really terrific training, and they take it very seriously. I think they're on hiatus now because the founder, like, she's so successful. Her son is like now becoming a professional golfer. So she's like, hold on, I want to like help him on his journey. But she's still doing training and things. But um it really was helping me see that it's not just about the actions that are helpful for people. It's not just giving them the lists and the books, but it's really about getting so nitty gritty with like, why are you eating at night? Like, And it's different for so many people. Why is it hard for you to put down the bag of chips? And those are conversations that, you definitely, they take longer than, the 2 minutes that you might have in a regular, like, wellness visit for somebody. And it's very personal. And so I think it really gave me the tools to be able to, like, have that, even broach that conversation, because a lot of times in medicine we want the patient to feel comfortable, we want them to feel at ease, we want them to tell us things. And I think what life coaching does is it really helps you ask very hard pointed questions, still with, the patient's best interest in mind, but it can be a little more confrontational than I think physicians are used to dealing with patients.